Hi, Gerhard Bloom here once again, looking at the tyranny and the delusions of the social justice movement. In this particular video, I'd like to discuss the recent attacks on Jordan Peterson for simply speaking honestly about this adoption of obese women as models, as exemplars of an enhanced and enriched and more sensitive understanding of beauty. Now, let's look at the realities here. Leftists are attacking Jordan for speaking the truth, right? In this case, the emperor doesn't have any clothes. No, the emperor is obese. And it's an obvious truth. And he doesn't like being compelled into this forced acknowledgement. This is something analogous occurs when someone shows you baby pictures. Now, what are you going to say to the parents? Oh, that's an awfully homely looking baby. And you may deny this, but I won't. There are beautiful babies and some far less beautiful, right? They're innocent children. Their appearance has no bearing on their moral worth as human beings, and the same as adults, right? The reality is, most people, the average person, looks rather average. This is why supermodels get millions of dollars, because they're rare specimens of beauty. Now, in fact, there was a very amusing Seinfeld episode looking at exactly that, right? These parents, wonderfully proud of their new child, and show this child off at every opportunity. And when they look at other people look at this child, obviously this child, whatever other merits this little baby has, beauty isn't one of them, right? And we're expected to believe our standards of beauty are arbitrary. They're arbitrary, they're contingent, and they're learned, right? If you don't find obese women or women who have penises attractive, well, that's because of our poisonous, oppressive, cis culture, right? This notion that all of human psychology, all of our dispositions, our drives, are all socially constructed is known as the learning theory model, right? And this can take you down very dangerous paths. Mao Zedong, Chairman Mao, who killed millions of his own people, famously wrote about human beings being a blank paper upon which you can write anything. And Pol Pot, that murderous villain in Cambodia, right, slaughtered people by the hundreds of thousands in the endeavor to create a new socialist man, right, a new socialist human being who wouldn't have the same poisonous competitive drives that the free market capitalism allegedly inculcates. This is not true. Human beings are formed and shaped by the forces of evolution, just as every other animal species is. Now, I had a recent conversation with a woman just the other day, and she argues, well, aren't we all beautiful? No, we all may be, and we're not all beautiful human beings, right? There are beautiful people who may or may not be beautiful as individuals, right? They may not be beautiful people. They may be visually very attractive, and have hearts of stone, right? And there are other people who are not attractive, who are not physically attractive, but are wonderful human beings, right? But our notions of beauty aren't arbitrary, they're not socially constructed. There's certainly an element of cultural elasticity, right? And there are, individuals who have anomalous templates for beauty, right? There are men, sexual predators, attracted to prepubescent children, right? This is very rare, thankfully, and it's a moral evil. And there are men who find very obese women attractive. This is not normal, right? So this learning theory model argues that whereas instinct is relied upon to explain the behavior of every other species of animal, these progressive social scientists vehemently denies its applicability to just one species, the Homo sapiens. Now, there is no accidental relationship between a peahen's interest in male peacocks with the large, colorful plumage, right? And analysis revealed by evolutionary theorists looked at these peacocks with the large peacock tails. Turns out they're genetically more robust. You need a very healthy immune system and a very healthy system overall to produce these large peacock tails, right? And peahens preferentially mate with peacocks with these larger, more colorful tails, right? And yes, you know, I'm sensitive to the fact that women to some extent live under the tyranny of beauty, right? But once again, this beauty standard is not arbitrary, it's not accidental, in fact, it's universal. But lest you feel too sorry for the females, consider the plight of males. In our evolutionary past, virtually all women mated. All women mated, had babies, right? The majority of women mated, had babies. Well, isn't that true for males? No, that's not true for males. Most males got completely shut out of the mating game, right? They were unsuccessful in finding any suitable mate. So there's a broad distribution in mating achievement with the male animal. The male human animal, there are men who are very, very successful. And then there are other men who don't mate at all. The males who succeed are high status males. High status males correlates to mating achievement in the male animal, right? So, you know, there's sort of a tyranny, a mating tyranny, an evolutionary game that's being played, and it's harsh, but it's a reality, right? Not all of us are created beautiful, and it is a fact that there's virtually one metric for female mating success, right? Youth and beauty. Youth and beauty is correlated to their mating status. Their place on the mating hierarchy is virtually exclusively defined by their youth and their beauty. Right? For males, in addition to physical attractiveness, right? Height, V-shaped torso, status. Status is very important. And men who are short, fat, pot-bellied can offset their mating deficits by gaining status. This is not something that women can do, right? Men don't care typically about women's status. So that's my little French bulldog, Monty. He wants to hog some of the limelight. What's interesting though is, so women, yes, I will acknowledge men are shallow. Men pursue youth and beauty, right? Men pursue youth and beauty, shallow. Everybody acknowledges that. What people are reticent to acknowledge is the fact that women are shallow. Women are shallow, they go for status. Men, looks, women, money. Now this is something of a gross mischaracterization. Yes, women do prefer high status males over low status males, and men prefer beautiful women to homely women, right? But for long-term mating, in addition to which, both men and women value things like honesty, commitment signalings, kindness, those kinds of social virtues. Men and women for long-term mating place a very high priority on those, right? So under this learning theory model, we're expected to accept the premise that the evolutionary forces that shaped our bodies, left our behavior radically untethered to our biology or evolutionary history. Under this model, human beings are cultural expressions all the way down. With the right education, you too would find obese women or women with a penis just as attractive as a supermodel. So in an attempt to re-educate us, obese women have recently appeared on the cover of several glamour magazines and now Sports Illustrated. Now, does anyone actually believe these women are beautiful? Now, they may well be beautiful human beings, wonderful human beings, but physical beauties, they are not, right? And we are being coerced. Somebody shows you this image and they're daring you to say what the obvious truth is. No, this woman is not beautiful. She's not an example of female beauty. And our sexual proclivities have been shaped over the course of hundreds of thousands of years by the forces of evolutionary and sexual selection, right? There are good reasons why men prefer young, beautiful women with hourglass figures to obese women and anorexic women. These men, entirely oblivious to this fact, were responding to ingrained fertility cues. That's right, women possessing this body type tends to be much healthier and much more fertile. That is a fact, right? Our male ancestors with these mating preferences outperformed males that had alternative mating preferences. They produced more offspring and healthier offspring. So males today have largely inherited this aesthetic preference. So no, it isn't media representations in the broader culture that's created this image of the attractive woman. This preference is universal across the globe, and people who've never been exposed to the Hollywood ideal, they cling to the Hollywood ideal, right? The Hollywood ideal was mirroring what the public wanted and understood to be representations of real beauty, right? They didn't shape the public's perception of beauty by starring very attractive women in glamour roles. And here's another thing to consider. You know, men get blamed for the stick-thin, near-anorexic supermodels, right? Beginning, I think, most famously with Twiggy, right? Well, this is not conforming to the male standard. You want to know what the male standard of beauty is? Look at old Playboy magazines. These were relatively busty women, narrow hips, wide waist, right? You see this phenomenon with the big booty, attractive women. They're attractive if you go for that sort of thing, because they still maintain a hip to waist ratio. If they had a wide waist and wide hips, they would be unattractive. There's the waist to hip ratio that's found universally attractive to men. The 0.7 waist to hip ratio is considered very attractive, universally shared. So people unexposed to the Hollywood ideal rate women possessing this body type much more attractive than women lacking it. And yes, women too have known cross-cultural mating preferences. Women everywhere and at all times have favored tall, high-status men with V-shaped torsos over poor, short balding men with pot bellies. So, and women in our ancestral past required men to protect them from sexual predation and provide needed resources. And obviously, some men are able to perform this function better than others. In the environment of our evolutionary adaptation, pregnancy and motherhood left women extremely vulnerable to more than just resource scarcity, but resource scarcity is a reality. And the ancestors of today's emancipated women preferentially mate with men who are strong and have high status. And once again, men's deficit on the physical side of things can be more than offset by their status, because status equates to resource ability, right? Access to resources. And feminists had once argued that, yes, of course, women prioritize or prefer men who have high status because they can't earn, they're dependent on men. Well, evolutionary psychologists have actually looked at this. They've studied this. As women climb the hierarchy totem pole, as women gain independence and status, the status of their male partner increases in importance. Increases in importance. So rather than being less interested in the status of their male partner, because they have their own wealth, they're even more concerned with the status of their male partner. Men are not like this. You can easily envision a Brad Pitt or George Clooney walking into a Starbucks anywhere across the globe, and there's a very attractive barista working behind the counter. Nobody would think anything if, after a brief chat, they were to drop the phone number to this very attractive barista. Now imagine the opposite occurring, right? Imagine, Beyonce or Kim Kardashian or whomever you choose, very attractive, successful female star. She walks into the Starbucks and there's a handsome Brazilian model-esque male barista working behind the counter. She has a chat with him. He asks her out for coffee, or she asks him out for coffee. The answer is no. The answer is no. So the men and women are responding to fitness cues when they respond to beauty cues. Not that they're doing so intentionally. These are sense of what's physically attractive are shaped by evolutionary processes and pressures. So males exhibiting physical and material resources critical survival are preferentially chosen as mates, and attractive women are sought after preferentially, right? So you can go ahead and star as many short, fat, balding men in Hollywood action heroes in films, and women aren't going to suddenly find them as attractive as Brad Pitt or George Clooney. This is all absolute nonsense. For further discussions of this and other important issues, I hope you'll check out my book, Deconstructing Social Justice. It's available on Amazon. And if you like the video, please drop a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you so much for your time. Bye-bye.